Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night, not Luke Live Online. You just saw that, though. I hope you watched it. Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesops, fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, epic stories of the great operas and such, to keep us all young at heart as we continue through 2023. You see. I have two poems for us today. This first comes from the Oxford Book of Children's Verse in America, and it is chosen and edited by Donald Hall, obviously Oxford University Press. This is a poem by Ogden Nash, born 1902 and 1971 in these United States. And this poem is entitled Adventures of Isabel. Now, as I read it, I would like you to discern, how old do you think this Isabel is? Very important. He doesn't tell us, but there's a sense, there's an innuendo, there are clues and keys of how many years has this Isabel. Please try to figure it out. Okay, here we go. Adventures of Isabel. Isabel met an enormous bear. Isabel didn't care. The bear was hungry. The bear was ravenous. The bear's big mouth was cruel and cavernous. The bear said, "Isabel, glad to meet you. How do, Isabel? Now, I'll eat you." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She washed her hands and she straightened her hair up. Then Isabel quietly ate the bear up. Once in a night as black as pitch, Isabel met a wicked old witch. The witch's face was cross and wrinkled. The witch's gums with teeth were sprinkled. "Ho, ho, Isabel," the old witch crowed, "I'll turn you into an ugly toad." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She showed no rage and she showed no rancor, but she turned the witch into milk and drank her. Isabel met a hideous giant. Isabel continued self-reliant. The giant was hairy. The giant was horrid. He had one eye in the middle of his forehead. "Good morning, Isabel," the giant said. "I'll grind your bones to make my bread." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She nibbled the zwieback that she always fed off, and when it was gone, she cut the giant's head off. Isabel met a troublesome doctor. He punched and he poked till he really shocked her. The doctor's talk was of coughs and chills. The doctor's satchel bulged with pills. The doctor said unto Isabel, "Swallow this, it will make you well." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She took those pills from the pill concoctor, and Isabel calmly cured the doctor. So there you go. How old do you think this little Isabel is? Well, clearly a young child with a wild and wonderful imagination, and is able to bite off and cut off the heads of her demons, even the doctor. She remained cool, calm, and collected. So you may picture little Isabel in her high chair, perhaps, although the only thing about setting her hair up in that first one that first thing. Maybe she's older. Maybe she's 5 or 6 or 7. Somewhere in there. You can have your pick. All right. The second poem is a spiritual poem from a Joyce Kilmer's anthology of Catholic poems. This was a gift given to me from a lovely family when I was in Los Angeles. It was their goodbye present to me. And they had found it in an antique store, I think. And so it's a little bit threadbare, and the pages are yellowed and a little extra crisp. But it's fun to take it out from time to time to share with you. So here we go. This is about a real person, a Franciscan friar in the early days of not Pope Francis, in the early days of Saint Francis of Assisi, that early 13th century, 1201, 1202, when Saint Francis was saying the church needed correction, more identity with the people on the ground, the poor and the weary, and the people who, as we heard in Friday night's Luke Live Online, those who needed saving. So this is Brother Juniper, Brother Juniper by Blanche Mary Kelly. As unto Francis poverty, so folly was a bride to thee, not the jade that fashions quips for the smiles of mocking lips, and in the face of stony death capers till she's out of breath, but the maid that moves and sings about divinely foolish things, she that gives her substance all for love, and laughs to find it small, she that drew God's Son to be a butt, a jest on Calvary, and neath the leper's guise doth know the King in his incognito. The world is grown too wise, and we go our sad ways sensibly. Oh, would that our lean souls might win some grace of thine, God's harlequin, whose days were lavished like fool's gold upon his pleasures manifold. Would God, cried Francis on his knees, I had a forest of such trees. Fun, isn't it? God's pleasures manifold. If you thought for a moment it referred to Brother Juniper's pleasures manifold, he's so caught up in God's pleasures. And we do have to remember that the cross is also folly. I mean, there's the sad and tragic dynamics of the cross, but it's also the way to resurrection and God's glory. And we see, too, to enter into the suffering of others, to help alleviate it, to have empathy and solidarity. There's a joy in it. There's a joy in it, and to laugh at death, because there's the promise of eternal life. Good old Brother Juniper, just like the tree. And that's obviously why Francis said, if I had trees like these, because Juniper was named for a tree, and the love of the earth. Wonder what his real name was, but he took his religious name as Brother Juniper. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad to be back with you. Thanks for all the prayers for my parents. They have recovered very well from their COVID, and I, from my sojourn, was miraculously not impacted with COVID myself. Well, God is mysterious. Our bodies are mysterious. I did have COVID in September. Perhaps I had enough antibodies. I don't know. But it all worked out. So thank you for that. It's good to be back in New York and get back to some of my ministries. I'm going to go to St. Nicholas Orthodox Christian Church on next Tuesday, for part of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. So I'm looking very much forward to that. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Oh, I'll have to record Luke Live early, unlike this week. Maybe I will. And then I'll tell you more about my evening with the Orthodox Christians on next Fridays. Luke Live online. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining me.